Welcome back from our lunch. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We're going to move right along with our road and bridge and stormwater capital projects.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, City Council, City staff, and residents. My name is Everett Torje. I'm a project administrator for the Capital Improvements and Half-Cent Sales Tax Project Group with Public Works. And I do fully believe in exactly what Vice Mayor Caraballo said about making sure that residents know that we are subject matter experts on what we're talking about. And I've also found that they really like to know that so many of us are also locals who love the city that we live in and love the work that we do. So my name's Everett Torje. I've lived in Port St. Lucie for my entire 36 years. I commuted to Florida Atlantic University for a Bachelor's of Science in Biology. I have worked on the Treasure Coast in the fields of geomatic engineering, geotechnical engineering, environmental engineering, ecology, civil design, and project management. And I've spent close to the last 4 years with the city of Port St. Lucie. So with that, let's dive into our capital improvement project updates that I am proud to present. Starting off strong, Floresta Phase 3. We did go over this with the half-cent sales tax presentation. I cannot stress enough, though, this 60% number is, I think, a little bit of a misnomer in that Floresta Phase 3 is a culmination of 3 different phases of Floresta that has been going strong and been a great project for us, starting with, with Frank Knott, Tom Salvador, Eric Sexauer, Emily Sider, the entire CIP team, and we are on the final stretch. Again, the end date is February 28th of 2028. However, we do hope to end early with this project. We are looking for anywhere that we can gain time, and we are looking to open up the various roads as soon as we possibly can. St. Lucie West Boulevard and Peacock Boulevard, I actually just got an email on this that we are hoping to open up the entire configuration in its final form by close of business today. There is a small amount of MOT out there with 1 lane closed, and we are fixing 1 guardrail that will allow us to open up that lane and have the full configuration that was spoken about in the beginning of the St. Lucie West widening presentation. This project has been a true partnership with not only St. Lucie County, but also St. Lucie West Services District, and we are on the final stretch for it. After we get that final configuration, we've got nothing but buttoning up of cleanup and various closeouts and the final touches. Tulip College Park. For this one, it is currently functioning as intended. However, there is still 1 final lane that needs to open in the easternmost phase that needs to occur, as well as some sidewalk work. So we are also on the final stretch with this one. We do expect to be completed this fiscal year by September 30th of 26. Tradition Parkway, Village Parkway. We have officially gotten the design, and we have gotten this to procurement as of yesterday, and Elena Knopflo with procurement has already started the process. We are doing great with the timeline on this. CEI is also being procured. The project manager on this is Tim Murphy, and Antonia Balistrieri and I will both be doing tons of QA, QC. We love this project, and we think it's going to be getting started off on a great foot with construction in the fall of 26, so shortly. And something I forgot to mention for Tulip and College Park, our project manager is Bree Vasquez, who is also doing a fantastic job. The Gatlin-Savona intersection improvements. Our project manager on this right now is Emily Sider. I am going to be the project manager once we get into construction. This is also in the final design phases. So we did see a spot where we could combine 2 phases together for this project so that we could get it completed with time savings and cost savings. So the final design is currently being buttoned up to make sure that can happen, and then we will be going to procurement once that is completed. We're hoping to start construction by March of 27, and We're hoping to do what was previously 2 phases all at once and get those improvements in as soon as we can.
Awesome.
The PAR roundabout.
What's the completion time on that project?
I think for Gatlin-Savona intersection improvements, if I'm not wrong, is it 2 years on that? Yeah, approximately 2 years, so from March 27 to March 29.
Thank you.
Wow, that's a long time for intersection improvements.
Oh, yeah, we do, that 2 years does include anything that's needed for material procurement as well as closeouts, but also with the MOT concerns there, we want to make sure that we're not holding up citizens. We're holding up citizens as little as possible with MOT congestion. So we are trying to give ourselves a little bit of buffer room for that because it's going to be a bit of a challenging one.
Is night work being considered for that, considering how congested that intersection is?
I'm sure that there would be some consideration of night work. Anything that involves having to do work within the intersection, especially at this intersection, we know how busy it is, that would definitely require the consideration of that night work.
Madam Mayor, I'll make sure that we evaluate that and make sure that we implement that.
All right, and then also looking at that for Tradition and Village, because that
Yes.
intersection is really, really busy.
And City Manager and Mayor Martin, just to chime in on that, for both of those projects, certainly Tradition and Parkway and Village, we've already had the conversations about working with, once we're able to bring the contractor on board and CEI, having those conversations about what elements will need to be done in the evening or overnight versus those that could be done in the daytime, because that is clearly an already failing intersection.
Right.
So we've had those discussions. On Gatlin and Savona, once we get the final design in of the combining of the 2 sets of plans, we'll then take a look at that and see what we can do, both to consolidate the time frame that was just quoted, but also whether or not we need to do any night work, just as we did for the prior one that was up for the St. Lucie West Boulevard and Peacock.
Yep.
We did that night paving we did the paving overnight up there for the same reasons.
Okay, thank you very much.
So another big one in that area, the PAR roundabouts at PAR and Savona and PAR and Darwin. These 2 roundabouts are being looked at as a way to make sure that as PSL Boulevard, the final phase of PSL Boulevard is completed, we have as well-functioning intersections in the area as possible if any detours are needed. Originally, these 2 projects were bundled to save time and to save on costs, and we actually have seen that. Now we've seen the fruits of that. If we can assume that with inflation that there would be some inflationary costs to the consulting, that we have saved approximately $150,000 and up to 1.5 years of schedule time for the Darwin roundabout. The 100% design plans are currently being buttoned up, as well as the bid documents. The 100% design plans are completed. The bid documents are being buttoned up. We are going at approximately the same rate as the property acquisition in order to make sure that we are maximizing our quality control and our efficiency with this. Property acquisition is ongoing. However, with the current rates, we are expecting construction to begin in fiscal year 26-27 so that we can be completed by early 28.
Okay.
And that fits well with the Port St. Lucie Boulevard timeline.
Okay.
So we had a great presentation on this earlier today, the St. Lucie West Boulevard corridor improvements. This has been spoken about ad nauseum, and it is an incredibly important part of our capital improvements program. Emily Sider has been fantastic at moving this forward, getting Kittleson on board, and getting as much as we can out of this corridor efficiently and consistently. California Boulevard Phase 1 was also mentioned during the half-cent sales tax. Again, Emily Sider has been working diligently to get this out so that we can get a design criteria package. She did attend the Bloomberg Harvard Leading City Procurement Reform Program, and we determined that a design-build approach would be perfect for this project. So we will get a consultant on board to get that design bid criteria package. Once we get that, we can go to design builds and simultaneously work on the design with the contractor on board at the onset so that we can make sure that this project is done efficiently and with both time and cost savings. Bayshore Boulevard, we are at 90% design. We are working on getting permitting from South Florida Water Management District. This is a job that is pending funding. It's no longer in the 5-year CIP. However, we do want to make sure that we have a shovel-ready design, and through this, we have been able to identify that a roundabout may be necessary on this corridor. So we do hope to have the design completed by December of '26 and be able to have it shovel-ready for when we need to go to construction for this project. Village Green Drive design. So Frank Knott has been working on this, as well as Eric Sexauer. We have the 60% through the conceptual and final design. We are currently looking at phasing questions. Those are the next steps, so that we can, pending funding, including the CRA contribution, get as much as done with this as we can prior to or alongside the future soccer stadium right next door to this.
So can we stop here for 1 second?
Yes.
So unfortunately, I heard that we did not receive the federal grant for construction on this project. Kate, could you please, I'm sure you've had meetings already with our team. Do we have any strategies moving forward of how we complete construction?
Absolutely. So the challenge, of course, we were very fortunate to receive a RAISE grant for the first time in the city's history of $2 million to design the project. That was under the prior administration, and in the administration changes, there were different transportation priorities set forward that, we were still very competitive as being a previously funded federal project. The U.S. Department of Transportation typically ranks you very highly in terms of construction. We saw that one of the headlines, though, coming out when they were announcing the awarded projects, there was a rejection of bicycle facilities, complete streets, like that was not embraced in this year's selection, which our project was designed under different priorities. So I think it is a challenging until if the administration is going to tweak that in the next year, and that's what we'll continue to advocate in our work with the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. This is a project that really has a great deal of economic development benefits, and that's what I know that Vice Mayor and Mayor, you both advocated at the federal level for this, and that really helps us tell that story about how this really is not just we care about safe access for pedestrians and cyclists. This serves multiple purposes, also priorities that the administration has prioritized among many priorities transportation-wise. They just had a different focus this round. So we'll continue to advocate for both the focus for the next round, as well as look at other funding opportunities that would meet this criteria, both at the state and federal level, in terms of, as well as federal and state appropriations. Something we could pursue is a federal appropriation through a Congressman Mast for this project for some funding. But the challenge is with the level of funding at $24 million, the build grant was the best funding pot because it was significant. That could have funded a significant amount.
So I'd like to see, like you said, we're going to bring back phasing options. Frank jumped in.
Can I add something to that?
Go ahead.
Is it
I was
on?
going to chime in too, but.
So we currently, because the CRA was going to contribute us like $12.5 million, I believe, to this project. We are currently having our design team look at what we can get built for $12.5 million. We should have that in about 2 weeks, I think. And we would be presenting, we would talk to you guys on a one-on-one basis to see how you'd like to proceed with that, using the CRA, only CRA funds, and then we could pursue additional grant money to do the rest at a later time.
So to clarify, because there's also been conversation about the TIF funding, that would be the Walton and One CRA, which means that any TIF benefit dollars would go to construction of this roadway project, which
Correct.
is a positive use of the funding for the economic development that's coming forward. So I think that I would love to see the phasing. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. I would love to see the phasing. I would love to have a strategy for the phasing. I would love to see if Congressman Mast would look for an appropriation request. We do have an election coming forward, so I do know that we have a potential new governor coming forward. I think as we begin to whittle down and kind of have an idea of the final candidates, I think it'd be good to meet with their administrations ahead of time to kind of brief them on some of these projects, because whoever the people elect, I want to make sure they're aware of it. And would love to see, I know we had DEO money prior for economic development on the west side. Would love to see the ability to see if there's any DEO money in the future that we could apply through the state for this economic development project. Because this was, right? I think before the soccer stadium, this was a transportation project for improvement of mobility, greenway, parkway trails, et cetera, et cetera. It has now shifted because of Walton and One to a actual economic development corridor. So I think there's opportunity for that discussion.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor, if I may, I think if you can phase this project, it will allow us to chase multiple funding sources for grants. I think the challenge is if you keep it all in one, that at the $24 million level, there's very limited pots for that kind of level of funding. But if you phase it and are able to separate, there's multiple funding sources from stormwater grants to bicycle pedestrian facilities to trails. We can pursue multiple funding sources for that.
And Kate, Vice Mayor, if I could just add to what Frank was saying. So under the RAISE grant, we're moving forward to continue the design, which will be wrapped up. We've challenged the engineer to give us potential options for what we could do in different phases, and also kind of pull components out and sort of give you an option of what to include or not include. And then I know that the CRA group is going to be talking with you all in terms of using those TIF funds for potentially the construction. We are still moving forward with our outreach. We do have, I believe we sent a note up through to council for it to be on your calendars, but we also have the business group outreach is occurring next week, I believe, on the 30th. So we're still moving forward with that to make sure we continue the outreach. But just from a phasing standpoint, real quick on the map, just sort of to orient everyone, the northern section north of Walton and One is already 4 lanes, and that's the business section predominantly, but there might not be as much need to do that right away, as opposed to the southern area where we have to be able to get traffic moving as a result of the March 28 soccer stadium. So that's sort of how we're taking a look at the project right now. And then we'll be working with Kate and others to figure out how all of that funding might work.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we're ready to move to the next one.
Just one, wait, one, so
Yes.
if we're talking about federal dollars, are there going to be additional constraints on us for what we can do and what we can't do because it's federalized? That's my concern. I mean, of course, we want funding, and we're going to pursue every bit of funding, but I always know that there's lots of strings attached when we're talking about federal money, so I just have a little concern about that. But, we'll got to keep trying for whatever we can to leverage the resources, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Mayor. There are more federal constraints, and what's helpful is if we did receive federal funding, it's already been designed to federal standards. So that helps us kind of with any, that's definitely been a hindrance in the past for chasing construction funds when it wasn't federally designed with federal standards. So it's ready for federal funding, but we will have to look at that carefully because you don't want to be constrained in terms of how you implement
And
it.
then the other part is this, is if, when we're talking about phasing it or segmenting it out, we really need to make sure that when it comes to the soccer stadium, that we already know what the plan looks like in regards to traffic, and that involves the PD with getting, cars in and out. And listen, we know that we have much bigger events at Mid-Florida, right? We have 10 to 15,000 people versus a 6,000 person or soccer stadium. However, still, traffic is a concern. And I just want to make sure that if we are able to get funding or use CRA funds and we're able to leverage that we're making sure that the PD is included in what that traffic plan looks like for any design elements or things that need to be done, because that's going to be key. Yeah, we always talk about doing things right the first time and making sure everyone's on the same page. And this is vitally important as we go into next year with the stadium being constructed, so,
Madam Mayor?
yeah.
So to your point, and this might already be done, Chief, I don't know if this is being done or not, but because the soccer stadium obviously does have to put forth a plan of traffic and how do we move traffic during a game, which is usually, it's going to be in the evening, it's going to be on the weekend. But we have lights, Christmas lights or Christmas tree lighting in December. We'll have another 4th of July. We'll have a couple of different events coming up. Is there any way that whatever you guys come up with can be modeled at those events? And then that way, we can kind of begin to time how much it takes to get people off, and then we can share that with the public. So if it takes 20 minutes to clear everyone out, we can say, you know, the maximum amount of time, or currently what we're looking at, the maximum amount of time might be about 20 minutes as far as the exit of the game, just to kind of begin testing those scenarios and seeing what it really takes us. Is that something we could do, or is that something we're currently doing?
Vice Mayor?
Wait, hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Vice Mayor, just to piggyback off what you were talking about, when I left the 4th of July, we had 15,000 people at that event. I left out, I went out the back road, come out to US 1, the way the PD had it set up, and there were multiple lanes that you got into. It took me 7 minutes from the time I got in my car to get to Crosstown.
That's great. See, and I think we need
And
that kind of data.
We had 15,000 people at that event, so it took 7 minutes to get from the backside of the parking garage to Crosstown, where I turned left on Crosstown. So traffic moved very efficiently.
Yeah, and that's what I meant, like, there's always more people at those events than there are, but just in terms of this project, let's just make sure that everything's buttoned up. Go ahead, Chief.
So in order to do what Councilman Piggott was just referring to, is getting all those occupants out of that area rapidly takes a tremendous amount of resources. So we're looking at multiple soccer games during a year, which that amount of resources is not going to be something that's going to be tenable. So what we are working on with our subcommittee and that traffic plan is options for utilizing technology and routes and figuring out how we're going to do it less manpower intensive. So to say we can practice that at these, it's not exactly the same things. It's kind of apples to oranges in that situation, because we're going to have to do that at the games with a smaller scale.
And I mean, well, true. Now with the Met Stadium, I know we assist the sheriff's office. Do we do, or do we do the
all of
traffic?
the traffic.
Okay, so we do all the traffic there.
Yes.
So that's a different corridor, because they actually have less accessibility than we have on US 1. That area gets more. Is there, like, I'm just thinking of how can we get ahead of this discussion, that's all, like, with the public, in the sense of before the soccer stadium opens, saying, we've got it figured out, we know how quickly we're going to get people in and out, and even though, again, people are not going to be stuck in traffic, these are weekend games in the evening. No one's going to be going to work during a soccer game. Well, maybe, yes, some people do work at night on the weekends, I take that back, but large majority of people. I just think it just helps to give assurance that we can get them in and out fast.
And Vice Mayor, if I can add into that, the subcommittee that the chief is talking about, we're meeting regularly and we're scheduling another one. We're not looking at it as just a soccer stadium. We're setting it up as different tiers. So if you have events of 1 to 1,000 people, what kind of management plan do you need there? Or if you have 10 to 15,000. So we're looking at multiple different tier levels. That way they know how to roll it out and not have to recreate the wheel every time.
Oh, yeah, because once the soccer stadium gets busy, guess what's happening? People are going to be like, I want to do an event, Mid-Florida Event Center, and you'll have competing events at the same time, utilizing the same amount of area. So, yeah, I could see that. That makes sense.
All right.
Okay. Our next project, the traffic signal preemption, has been so far a fantastic success for the city and for the fire department. We have, of the entire map up there, 3 signals that are not yet complete. All others are working. There are some that we're not able to connect to due to a lack of fiber connection underground. However, IT and our traffic team have been working diligently to get all the fiber needed in the ground, hopefully by the end of summer. Cesar Simonelli has been a fantastic project manager on this, and the preemption will help allow our fire department to get throughout the city to emergencies as needed in a major way.
What intersections are we not able to do yet due to the fiber not being there? Are they major intersections that we're going to really need to focus on to make sure we get the fiber in?
Well, I just want to clarify that statement. So there's 3 intersections that don't have the preemption. Those would be St. Lucie West and Peacock PSL Boulevard and Gatlin, because they're under active construction right now.
Yes,
The
and then
third-
Village and Hector.
and Village and Hagner. The ones that don't have the fiber, the preemption is working and communicating with the fire district.
Okay,
But since the fiber is not connected, if they have issues, we're going to have to send someone out. We can't see the back and forth, what is happening at the intersection remotely. So for all intents and purposes, the fire district is getting their preemption and the signal is changing as needed for them.
okay. Thank you for that
So
clarification.
Shannon.
Yes, go ahead.
So kudos, I know that we had brought this up
Yep.
last year and said it was a priority. You got it done.
Yeah,
Not only do I appreciate it, but the entire fire district and the employees at all the stations appreciate it. It just helps, and just know that you probably saved a lot of lives.
yeah. I agree, absolutely. We know that seconds count, so it's really important. So great job to all. Thank you so much.
We are definitely very proud of this project, for sure. It's been a great one. And then finally, something that City Manager mentioned earlier today is that the city is never complacent. We are always looking toward the future, and so we have several feasibility studies that have been completed in order to help figure out exactly what's needed in various corridors throughout the city. Bayshore Corridor has been completed. We have almost finished with the design there, as mentioned. St. Lucie West Corridor has been completed, and we are able to move to our design build shortly. The Savona Corridor is 90% complete. We are just buttoning up the final conceptuals and PowerPoints to be able to bring it to council to show what potential future phasing and future intersection improvements could look like in that corridor. And South Bend and Torino are both about 75% complete. South Bend in particular has been a fantastic success. I've been meeting with the residents of South Bend out there. Our consultant has identified 7 intersections that could allow us to put off widening of South Bend in that neighborhood area. That would help immensely with traffic flow because we're finding that the traffic flow is really problematic when trying to get on and off the side streets instead of through South Bend.
Right.
So through this feasibility study, the hope is that we'll be able to save quite a bit of money and focus on those specific intersections well before widening, which may not be needed for 30 years per the study.
Great.
And that completes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Right. Yep, go ahead.
You brought up Floresta for Phase 3 and said it would be finished February 28. Does that take into account storm days? With the pending hurricane season coming up and the rain season, are those days factored in there, or?
Yes. So to your question, Councilman Pickett, the February 28th date is the contract date, so we always want to keep that in our eyesight. The most recent schedule that we were provided by the contractor, which was just last week, is showing them completing actually 30 days earlier than their last schedule. So they continue in advance, which is looking at mid to late fall of '27, and that's factoring in weather, which we've been dealing with
Right.
during the course of the construction and everything else.
I just don't want to get into the same situation that we had on Port St. Lucie Boulevard.
no.
Where every time we turned around, it's because of weather, it's because
No,
of weather.
no, they've been very responsive. They've got the appropriate amount of teams out there working on it daily. They reacted Friday to the storm event that we had, although it wasn't a formal storm, it was quite a rain event. But the early completion in advance of that 2028 date factors in all weather and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Yep.
Plus, you have to also remember, we're in control of this project. DOT was in control of the other project, and the differences in the contractors and their abilities are night and day. So, yeah, but good, it's a good question, for sure. So, okay. Any other questions? No? I'm glad to see we are really getting a lot done. People don't realize it, but those slides prove just how much planning and how much design work that we're doing in preparation to getting these projects completed and off the ground. Of course, it's always about funding, right? And how fast we can get them done. Because once the designs are done, like I said, they're on the shelf and they're ready to go. So it's just going to be a matter of what's going to happen in order to continue to get these projects actually to the construction phase.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. We are now on to repaving. Oh, stormwater. I'm sorry. They were all lumped together. Stormwater.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, residents, and staff. I'm Peter May. I work with the Stormwater Division in the Public Works Department. A brief overview of myself. I've over 26 years total experience and 3 years here with the city. I'm a professional engineer, and like I said, I will get on with the presentation now.
So Peter, tell me you're an engineer without telling me you're an engineer by saying 26.5. I love it.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah, it's almost exactly 26.5 right
I
now.
love it. I love it.
First, we have a short video.
Every time it rains in Port St. Lucie, a vast and often unnoticed system goes to work. Miles of canals, swales, culverts, and water control structures suddenly spring into action, moving stormwater safely away from homes and roads, reducing flooding, and helping to keep pollution out of the St. Lucie River. Unfortunately, as rainwater travels across pavement and yards, it collects debris and chemicals. Without a well-maintained drainage network, flooding and runoff can damage property and harm water quality. That's why the city invests year-round in system upkeep and upgrades, from clearing swales and outfalls to replacing aging culverts and installing technology that stores, filters, and treats stormwater more effectively. You can see these improvements all across the city. Baffle boxes capture trash and sediment before it reaches the river. Culvert replacements and canal maintenance keep neighborhood drainage flowing. Water control structures and stormwater treatment areas improve both flood protection and water quality by holding and treating runoff before it moves downstream. Major projects strengthen the system even further. One of the most successful is the Eastern Watershed Improvement Project, or EWIP. After Tropical Storm Faye flooded portions of the east side of the city in 2008, Port St. Lucie upgraded the area's canals, drainage structures, and storage. The result? Reduced flooding, better stormwater flow, and water quality improvements, including measurable reductions in harmful nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. As Port St. Lucie grows, the stormwater network must grow with it. The city continues improving older neighborhoods while working with developers to ensure new communities include effective drainage systems from the start. Because the city's stormwater system is interconnected, upgrades in one area can benefit many others. And more improvements are on the way. The planned Oak Hammock Watershed Improvement Project will add retention ponds, upgraded pipes, a pump station, and new water quality features, bringing benefits similar to EWIP to the central part of the city. The Hogpen Slough Improvement Project and E8 canal upgrades will also expand capacity, enhance treatment, and reduce flood risks across the watershed. Together, these projects form a long-term strategy to keep Port St. Lucie safer and more resilient. From the culvert replacement program to system-wide enhancements and innovative treatment areas, each effort strengthens the overall network. And it's all able to happen thanks to a dedicated stormwater fee, approved annually by City Council. This fee funds the maintenance and upgrades that keep stormwater moving, protect neighborhoods from flooding, and improve water quality. It also supports the projects and daily work that safeguard property, keep roads passable after storms, and help protect the St. Lucie River. These investments also benefit residents directly by providing lower flood insurance premiums through FEMA's community rating system. By maintaining the system year-round and planning ahead with forward-looking projects, Port St. Lucie is protecting property, preserving waterways, and building a stronger future.
So this needs to go on Facebook multiple times. Seriously.
That was a really good
This should
video.
be on social media, because just putting it on our website is not good enough. Because
can.
we're not driving people to the website to look at this. We need to make sure it's on social media.
They wanted to show it here first, but
Yeah.
now that you've seen it, we can release it to the world.
Good, perfect, great. Make it
Shannon,
happen.
I agree. I think that even in the presentations, I want to find a way to embed it in one of our presentations, because when we present to the public, like I was just at South Bend, I would like to find a way to show this video. Because it's a really impactful video. And I think you put it, like, we can put it on Facebook, but some people just don't watch that stuff.
Oh, they'll watch it. If it's on our page, they'll watch it, and then it'll get shared.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping. But
Yeah.
then, like, the other thing that it made me think of, because it's such a good video, and you guys are doing something different in the chambers. Where's Gus and Avi? Like, you've been playing, like, music, or what have you been doing? It's not music. You're playing something else I noticed before council meetings.
Okay, so there was a suggestion to play promos and information in our breaks, so they've arranged it. Starting Monday's meeting, you'll be getting to see
I
that.
think this should be, like, I think
We can put
videos
this in
like
there.
this
Yep.
should be, because it's great, because we have residents that come, they come to speak about an item or something, but they can also get some information while they're at the council meeting. I think this is really good to have
Yeah.
as part of that rotation.
Okay.
This is part of that education and communication piece that we talk about that's so important. Because what have we dealt with in the past?
Right.
That people think that the stormwater system is solely about the swales, and that is just a tiny piece of it. So, great.
And it can't, like, you can't change those visuals. Like, when you sit there and you look at the slider from the tool that we have online that people don't, like, we tell people about it, but I don't think they go, when you see that slider move, and then you see all of a sudden, this is what the project's gonna look like, then you start to understand the impact. It's a good video.
The first project we'll discuss, it's already come up before in the previous presentations, but the D11 canal improvements. This is the piping of a stretch of the D11 from Floresta over to basically the outfall at the river. That project helped improve the conveyance remains the same. It's actually slightly more capacity than what the canal was, but there was an area through there where it was very hard to maintain previously. So it was overgrown and it would have erosion problems that we couldn't really get to maintain. So this stretch of canal is being piped for that reason. It is nearing completion on the construction portion, although it is tied in with the Floresta project also. So you see that end date, it will be done prior to that. It's actually very near completion. Yeah, it should be completed here later this year. The Floresta Phase 3 baffle boxes, once again, this was mentioned a little bit previously. There are 2 baffle boxes as part of the Floresta project at the D10 and D8 canals. They've already been installed, but ultimately there's other work that needs to be completed around them, so the completion will be with the roadway, even though they're already functional. The Hog Pen Slough Stormwater Treatment Area. This is out north of Walton Road by the Port St. Lucie High School off Leonard. There's about 11-acre parcel there that is rectangular, and you can kind of see it on that diagram, but north of Dunbrook and south of Caribbean. We are planning on taking that area and creating a stormwater treatment area. The design is at 90%. It will involve a pump that will pump out of the canal into the stormwater treatment area and route the water through the entirety of that, and then it will come back out on the south end, back into the canal, and that will provide additional stormwater treatment, which we are required based on our BMPs for our BMAP. Funding is still pending on this. We're going out for grants. We have several applications we previously went out for. Now that we're nearing final design and permitting, it should make it a little bit easier, hopefully, to get grant funding for this so that we can move forward with the construction. The Hog Pen Slough water control structure is APS 60 structure. It's adjacent to US 1, just downstream of this SDA. This we already have permitted, and we are getting 100% construction plans here in probably the next few weeks, and then we will be moving on to getting approval for the procurement, and then go under construction later this year is our goal. This structure is updating the SCADA system, and the structure is falling apart, so it really needs to be replaced. We're not modifying it in a geometric way, but we are providing updated SCADA so we have remote control ability and
it will be a much nicer facility. The Whitmore Drive baffle box, this is essentially completed. We are just closing out some of the grant funding. We have some of the educational signage that we're still getting in there to finalize that with DEP. That's one of the requirements. And actually part of the SWAG and ARPA grants, there were some requirements that required educational signage that we need to get in there. So that's what the last bit of that before this is closed out. And that once again provides stormwater quality for that basin through that baffle box, and it removes sediment and trash and debris. The watershed A and B improvements, this project involves the construction of 3 control structures. They were basically they're structures that have met the end of their service life and needed to be replaced. 2 of them are along par at Sawgrass Lakes, and those they have updated SCADA, which will once again allow us to remotely operate those. And we also are replacing the structure over off of the Horseshoe Canal, which is the A18 structure. And this should be completed later this year. It's moving forward nicely, so we should be completing that by the end of this year as per scheduled. Veterans Memorial Stormwater Quality Retrofit Project. This is the 3rd phase of the Veterans Memorial projects. It involves expanding some of the existing right-of-way where we have canals into stormwater treatment ponds, and we are adding a control structure at Veterans Memorial Parkway. This will allow us to hold water longer to provide more stormwater quality and also improve some of the conveyance and the ability to provide stormwater enhancements in the area. We're looking to start this by the end of the year. We're still working to get the appropriations from the federal government, so we're working through that process right now. And once we get that, we will get into the procurement and start construction. The A14 water control structure, this once again is out on the southwest part of the city off of Becker, and it's actually off of Darwin, just north of Becker. This control structure, the previous one was seriously failing, and we are in the process of replacing it and updating it so that it's reconfigured and it actually provides more water quality storage and treatment. So we're getting some additional BMAP credits for this, for nutrient reductions for phosphorus and nitrogen, as is required for us. This is nearing completion. There's some minor work they're still doing on the control structure. There was some concrete that they had to replace on the new structure, and a couple of the culverts that they need to put in there, and then that will be finalized. But this does not have SCADA. This is a stationary structure, so what you see right there in that picture is essentially what you will see in the future. This is the big project that we've talked about in the past. This is the Okamic Watershed Improvement Project. This area is known to flood, as you can see, and we all know it floods quite frequently, especially in the area in front of the Okamic K-8 school there at Savona in California. It's always problematic. This project's goal is to remove that flooding and provide service throughout the entire basin. In the process, we're going to be upgrading some culverts. We're going to be putting in some pipe interconnections. We're anticipating a pump station at some location, yet to be determined based on ultimately this first phase, where we're going to be doing an updated study, which will also involve some of the design so that we can get some of the work underway that we know we already know that these portions of the project will take place. And then after that, based on their recommendations, we will come up with the additional projects in the second phase of that to finalize the entirety of the basin. And this will also include updating all of the swale liners throughout where we don't have swale liners, and some of that work will be completed probably more on the front end. Well, some of the project will be completed by the end of 2030, but we should have some of this under construction by the end of next year or the beginning of '28. The Elkham Basin Improvement Project, this is the entirety of the Elkham Canal. It is, as you can see in that picture right there, there's a lot of sediment in certain areas, as they call it, detritus, which needs to be removed. But we also have 3 control structures in this, along this, and 2 of them are very problematic in the way that they function. They sometimes get clogged. They're just older control structures that need to be replaced and updated with a new type of design. And the furthest one downstream, it's also going to be replaced. So this project also will include some other minor work. We'll do some shoreline stabilization in some areas. There'll be some recontouring of some of the canal banks in certain areas. In this project, we're looking to get hopefully under design by the end of this year so that we can finish design and construction by '29. The EA Canal improvements, this is over north of Gatlin, east of I-95. It's Tampico to the west, it's a control structure, and then it goes upstream, I believe, about 500 feet where it ties into the previously finished phases. So this is the last of all the phases of this project. It's about 50% complete at this time. The reason this whole area was done in this manner is because we had very limited right-of-way. As you can see in that picture right there, you got fences on both sides right at the top of bank. It's just very hard for maintenance to take place. So putting in riprap and flattening some of the slopes to make it so that they can get a mower in there for the maintenance up above the rock and then not have to deal with the lower part of the canal. So this is more of a long-term maintenance benefit for the city. So we won't have to be doing as much work in here because this canal was constantly getting eroded and sloughing in and having to be, it was difficult to get to. So this project should be completed by the end of this year and will be a very good benefit to the city.
Question for you on that.
Yeah.
So is it becoming eroded because of the grass cuttings, or is it just the slope? Like, what's causing the erosion?
It was more of just a slope issue. It just, and flows.
And so if you look through a lot of the GDC planned areas, they would make one side of the canal bank flatter and then one side steeper. And that was mainly so that they could drive on the flatter side and try and maintain the other side. But with the soils in this area and the type of drainage that goes through there, that steeper canal bank would start sloughing off and creating more of a maintenance issue for us.
Is there any long-term fix that can be envisioned for it, or is it just something that we're going to have to deal with as long as the canal?
So as Peter mentioned, something like this can be a long-term fix because that riprap that holds the bottom and provides support for those slopes of the canal banks. So this can't work in every single aspect. It's going to have to be a case-by-case basis depending on the right-of-way width and the configuration and types of soils out there.
I think the challenging part with the stormwater is the stormwater funding. You know, you want to get all these projects done, but you only have a limited amount of resources. And we don't want to increase also the fee where you just, is outpacing everybody else. And that's the challenge. How do you balance everything that we have? And that's the challenge we've been dealing with. And I know council has in the past increased the fee of stormwater to try to address this, but still there's a lot more that should be done, especially when you look at the GDC era canal system. I mean, I'm not sure, Cole, if you have the number, how many canal systems do we have out there that actually push the flow over into the river?
The number of canals, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know it's over 200 miles of canals.
Yeah, and that's the challenging part.
Quick question, going back to the Okamic Watershed Improvement Project. So, we say bond funding approved. So bond funding approved, but what does that mean in terms of the Amendment 3? Will that be affected, or are we covered with that?
No, the stormwater, as you know, is being funded by the stormwater fee. So we're using the stormwater fee
For
funding
this bond,
for the
right?
bond.
Okay.
Correct.
Just, I didn't know if it was just stormwater or if we were leveraging funds from different sources.
No, we're
So that's
trying
why
to
I want,
spend all of it there. Unless we get grants and we can have matching grants, that's different.
okay, that's what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
This last slide here, this is the Accelerate Swale and Culvert programs. As you know, we're in the process of going in where we have 1 PSLs and trying to put in new swale liners where we don't have them or they're causing problems. So this is going to bring additional crews in to help expedite the process of getting all of the swale liners where we have new homes or 1 PSLs that are currently happening, and get those completed. Maintenance is a perpetual program, but these are trying to expedite the ones that we already have in our program, on our map, and this should be an ongoing thing, but this is to expedite doing this maintenance program.
Mayor, Council, we are using some of the fund now to assist with the liner. So coming out of the general fund, that's a source that we've been using, and especially when it comes to maintaining the culvert system, the liner system. You know, it's a requirement of the homeowners to actually maintain that liner, but the city has stepped in and has been keeping it clean for many years. What are we doing, 4 or 5 cleanings a year?
Up to 6 per year. We're striving for 4, and as everyone's well aware, we had a contractor that determined that it was not worth the time for what they were charging us, so we are in the process of getting a new contractor right now and going through the procurement phases.
So what that does is becomes challenging for the general fund, especially when the general fund is going to be depleting some of the funds that we have. So the outcome of that is that if it backs up and the homeowners don't maintain it, it flows onto the streets. When it flows onto the streets, now you're going to start getting potholes because now the water's going to sit out there for a lot longer than what we discussed earlier today.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions on this part? No? Great, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Clyde.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and City Manager. I'm Clyde Coffey. I am the Regulatory Division Director. I've been with the city for 20 years, resident of City of Port St. Lucie for 21 years, Bachelor of Science degree, Bachelor of Engineering degree, and I've been an engineer for 4 years. So this afternoon, I'm going to just give you an update on the developer-funded projects, roadway projects, primarily in the western part of the city. The first one is Crosstown Parkway Extension that's being funded by Verano Development. This project started off in 2023. It extended the Crosstown Parkway from Village Parkway to Rangeline Road. And it is substantially complete. It's been open to the traffic for about a year now when this high school opened. It's in the final stages of being turned over to the city for ownership and maintenance. Marshall Parkway at Riverland Parcel B Phase 2. This is being developed by Riverland Development. It is substantially complete as well. That's the segment from the Marshall Parkway, from Parcel B of the, from Parcel B entrance to Riverland intersection. And right now, the only thing that's missing on that is the roadway lighting And once that is done, it will be turned over to the city as well. Discovery Way at Riverland Parcel C, that's also being funded by Riverland Development, and that is the extension of Discovery Way from Riverland Parcel C's north entrance to Sundance Vista Boulevard. It is currently under construction. Anticipated completion time is towards the end of this year, early next year. Sundance Vista Boulevard at Riverland Parcel D, Phase 1, that runs from the extension of Discovery Way and goes south to the west entrance of Marshall or Riverland Parcel D. That one is currently under construction, and the completion time is summer of 2027. Going further north, Sundance Vista Boulevard at Western Grove. This segment is by Matami, and it is the extension of Sundance Vista from Tradition Parkway to the new K-8 school. It is substantially complete. It will be open for the public next month when school starts. Going a little further north, Sundance Vista Boulevard at Western Grove as well, also being funded by Matami. That is from the Crosstown Parkway to Western Grove Cadence East entrance. That is the design just finished, so they should be starting construction pretty soon, and they should be done construction by summer of 2027. The next phase, just south of that phase, is also Sundance Vista Boulevard. It is being done by Matsumi Homes, and it is also under design, expected to start construction within the next month or so. And that phase goes all the way down to Tradition Parkway, and it will be completed, anticipated by winter of 2027. Final segment of Sundance Vista Boulevard at Western Grove, also by Matami, will be from the extending the roadway from the K-8 school south to Discovery Way, and that's under design right now, planning on being opened by winter 2027. West Cliff Lane extension will complete West Cliff Lane to Tradition Park to Sundance Vista Boulevard, and that is also being funded by Matami, and it is tied in with the Lotus development. So at this point, the date is still to be determined. Fern Lake Drive is also funded by Matami. That roadway completed the Fern Lake Drive. So it may make Fern Lake now is connected from Tradition Parkway to Westcliff Road. It is substantially complete. It's open to the public. Discovery Way widening, that is the 4-lane widening of the existing Discovery Way between Village Parkway and Community Boulevard, also funded by Matami. This is currently in review and is expected to be completed by summer of 2027. And that concludes my slides. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Questions? No? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an example of, with all the questions that are out there about making sure the developers are meeting their obligations. And this presentation just goes to show that we are absolutely doing that, and we're holding them accountable for what their responsibilities are to the city and our residents.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. Just to add to that, too, is that currently you only have one way in once you go through Traditions into schools. With these projects, you're going to be able to head north towards Crosstown or south towards Discovery. So it really enhances our ability to move around out there in Tradition.
Yeah, so that's the roadway network that they're expected to build out, and we're making sure that that gets done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Good afternoon. I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to show my little About Me slide first. Just a couple of highlights. I'm a certified Public Works Infrastructure Inspector, a certified professional supervisor, and a certified professional manager with the American Public Works Association. And again, these are just some highlights. There's many more things, but I think this is kind of give you a snippet of who I am. Tom Salvador. I've been with the Public Works Department for 24 years and in the city of Port St. Lucie for 37. Proud graduate of Port St. Lucie High School. I knew that was coming. Without further ado, let's get started with your update to the roadway preservation and resurfacing plan. First of all, can anybody tell me what road this is at a quick glance on the dais?
What'd you say?
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's Commerce Center Parkway.
Oh.
Ta-da. Okay, so anyone who's driven out west of town, heading out to Glades, heading out to where the Wilder area is, all that new development out there, going towards the railroad tracks, remember how bad that road was? That road is the single road in the city that was failing, a true failing roadway. Now, this is not a resurfacing project. It is not a preservation project, but I wanted to highlight it because it's such an important piece of what we do. We went out and looked at the road, found that it was failing with all of our data, got geotechnical testing on it, said, yeah, you're not going to be able to pave this. You're going to have to rebuild it. So we had a contractor come in, recycle and armor the road all in one shot right there. It's called full depth reclamation. But at the very top of it is your bit of asphalt. So I just wanted to have that photo in here and show how that ties in. That type of work is typically taken under by the capital improvement group. That is something that we see with resurfacing and preservation and spending our dollars wisely. To do that work, it's about 50 to 100% more per mile than to just resurface a roadway. So we can't do it everywhere. That's why we follow the data and follow all the information we can.
Now, on the opposite side of that, Thomas, how much would it cost to rebuild the roadway from scratch in comparison to what we did?
In comparison to what we did, it would be almost identical. However, the impact to the residents and the impact to traffic would have been greater. So in my mind, not a good idea. We would have had to build temporary roadways on either side of this one to build this. Meanwhile, all that traffic coming from Glades. And this is, now we have Crosstown, now we have Becker. But for the longest time, the city was built by Commerce Center Parkway, or things from down south in Palm City. All of the rock and the dirt and everything that came into Port St. Lucie to build it came through that road, and that's why this road failed. All those heavy loads, all those dump trucks, this is how they got into the city. So again, it would have cost roughly the same. It's very comparable, but the time and the impact to the residents would have been much greater. So I find this to be the better value.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Tom, can you tell everyone how long it took to get that done?
What was it? A week? Not even a week. And it was done at night. The contractor was able to come in and do the work at night. Overall, to get all the striping and everything else in, it's usually about 30 days to do that little bit of work. However, they got in there one night down one side, came in the next night, went up the other side. Then they let it sit. They trim the top of the road, and once they trim the top of the road, they go ahead and pave it. It's that fast. It is so economical. It's more expensive, but when it's needed, it's the right thing to do. And we're about to do something like that in one of our neighborhoods out off of Savona.
Well, sorry, but this is why the conversation's so important, because sometimes we look at money and we say, oh, well, why did they spend this much when they could have spent this much? And if you just said that staff made the decision to do this particular project because we got it done in a week, which I'm sure building the road or rebuilding a road would have taken how long?
Easily, you're talking 6 months, top to
Okay.
bottom probably. And it's a little piece of road, but dealing with the railroad and everything else you'd have to do out there, that's a 6-month job. But
Easy, right?
Yep.
So that's my question for the public, and just, I kind of think I know the answer, but if the answer is today, I'm going to be inconvenienced my way back and forth from work is going to be inconvenienced for 6 months, or I'm going to pay either the same or slightly more to have it done in a week. They don't care about that process. So I just wish that we could find a way to package that in a pretty little bow so people understood. Sometimes you're looking at something and it might look more expensive, or you might think there's cost savings, but the question becomes is how important is your time, and how long do you want to spend, in traffic? I mean, if we could have did Port St. Lucie Boulevard in a week a segment, I don't think anybody would be complaining. You know what I mean? Like, that's where time is money, money costs is, money. Time is money, and sometimes saving time does cost more money, but that's also worth the value too.
Value, that's the word. I mean, you hit it right on the head. What's the value?
Yeah.
And again, it can't be done everywhere. Places, like certain places you're putting sidewalk in, you're doing drainage. This was nothing more than rebuilding the road as it sat right in place. And you can't do that everywhere,
Right.
but by golly, it worked. It worked great here, and we've used it before. We did it on Melaleuca years ago, did it on Rosser, and we've done it in some neighborhoods.
Can we do that on South Bend?
Can we?
I'm just asking,
We
can
can
we?
look at it.
Just because if you think about it, South Bend sidewalks are way off to the side. They're not really even abutting the road, so I'm just wondering,
It can be done anywhere if the road is ready for it.
up at least into the point of the curbing. the
I
curb
wouldn't
and
want to.
gutter.
I wouldn't want to spend that money doing it if there was a worse road I could do it on.
That was pretty bad, though. And it's the same situation. I'm looking forward to seeing how we continue the discussion. I think it's the same situation. I think the deterioration of the road that I'm seeing is because of all that truck traffic in South Bend that's coming from 95, or from the Turnpike back and forth.
Our first step would be to test it, do all the geotechnical testing to see if there actually is a failure in the road or if it's just the asphalt. Because sometimes what you're seeing is just the asphalt. The
Right.
underneath is fine. So to spend 100% more than what it would cost to
Correct.
resurface it, but that's why we use the data and that's why we go through the steps that we do, including the feasibility studies from the top.
Correct, yeah, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's important, because there's a different scope for every project.
That's right.
And you need the data and analysis and to know what that scope is and what everything looks like. And that separates one project from another every single time.
It's so easy to drive down the street and say that road needs to be repaved, but why? What if it needs to be reconstructed? What if there's a water line broken that's been leaking for years that you can't tell? It's been just dripping, but it's made a hole in the road. All of these things have to be checked. You can't just go and pave a road.
Right.
And that is where we live now in our program, is we follow the data. And the data helps drive the decisions. And in times like we're facing, where there can be shortages and there's limited funding, we have to be able to do what's best with the dollar.
Right.
It's so important.
It is. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right, so let me amaze and astound you with an update to your resurfacing program. We last saw each other in February. We were 6 months behind back then. We were a little late in giving our update, but that's because we had just received new data and we were processing all the information. So everything you'll see here is related to that data that we've gotten, and with any changes to the budget in forecasting what may be coming towards us here in the future. So, a lot of these slides are going to be the same. I try to pepper in a couple new things just to keep it fresh. 926 centerline miles of roadway we've actually increased because of our workout and tradition, all of the roadways that are going in there. So you got 1,992 lane miles. That is from the southernmost point in Key West all the way up to Maine, one single lane. So if you drove that whole route, that's the amount of asphalt that we have to maintain here in Port St. Lucie. We are number 5 for mileage maintained in the state of Florida out of 411 municipalities. So when you look at our nearby competitors, St. Petersburg, Tampa, Cape Coral, Jacksonville, again, number 5, I don't see us surpassing St. Petersburg until Northwest or more happens, because I'm guessing about 10 to 12 miles left in tradition, roughly. So we're still going to stay at number 5 strongly, and I would hope that we do. I would rather not keep moving up and getting more because, well, it's very simple. It's just funding.
Well, I got to update my slide for my presentation there, so thank you for that.
Our current plan methodology is to really go after the worst first in the areas using the Pavement Condition Index, the PCI score. We try to balance it out in the districts to make sure that all districts are being taken care of, but some of the districts have lesser amounts of roadway and some of them are in a lot better shape. So fiscally responsible, getting it spent to the places that have the worst roads, first choosing arterials and collectors. Those are your main roads that get you to and from the house, to and from the store, gets everybody to school, and gets emergency services rolling. So we look at those. We want those to stay above a 60 PCI. That's kind of like a rough number. If I see it drop below a 60, and there's plenty out there that are below 60, those are the ones that I want to start doing first. Those are the ones I want to bring into compliance. With our neighborhood streets, it's not as much because you don't get the traffic volume and you don't get the traffic load. So we allow that number to get a lot lower. And again, funding, can't snap my fingers and pay for it all today. So using the data, that's how we're doing it now. Worst first throughout the city. In 2021, it was $89,000 per center line mile of residential roadway to resurface. Current cost is $141,000. That it's a 58% cost increase, and as you've seen through all the other presentations and as we've talked about, things go up, they don't go down. So luckily, right now, we're in the third year of a continued service contract. Prices have not changed. They have not asked for an escalation. We're very lucky to be working with the vendor we are now. This was a competitive bid contract at the time, and they came in lowest, and they're doing a great job for us. Roadway preservation, which is our rejuvenant that we spray on the roads. It actually lets the roads become more flexible again. Roadways are asphalt concrete. Concrete is a rigid pavement. Asphalt is flexible. You put this rejuvenant into the asphalt, it allows it to move a little bit and it keeps it from breaking apart and oxidizing, falling apart. So basically, pennies on the dollar, I'm able to extend the life of our roadways. And since we've started this program, our roadways that have been used on are deteriorating slower. We can see it in the numbers, and that is actually great foresight. Having started a few years ago with everything we're coming up against now, we want our roadways to last longer without needing repair. All right, our progress this year, we are almost complete. We have done all of our planned sales tax resurfacing, which is 23.55 miles, and we have done 17.25 of our capital improvement road and bridge resurfacing. The only project left was mentioned earlier prior to lunch. That is our Import Drive resurfacing project. That was scheduled this year. That will be completed this fiscal year. It's funded. It's budgeted. We are just getting ready to make some drainage improvements on the road before we resurface it. As soon as the drainage improvements are complete, the resurfacing contractor is ready to go. They have asked me, when can we start? Almost every day. And I say very soon. But we are coming right behind there. We'll get that Import Drive done here shortly. Our pavement condition index, as I spoke about prior, that's the value that we use to decide where we're going and what our citywide network looks like. Years ago when the pavement program started, our goal was to get to a 65 pavement condition index citywide. However, that number was only based on residential streets. It wasn't taking into account the arterials and collectors. I can tell you this, our arterials and collectors are in much better shape and were built in a much better fashion and are stronger than any of our residential streets because they're newer. The great news is now that we've included the multi-lanes and the collectors into our calculation, we're up in the 67. So we've beaten what our goal was back in 2015. These roads are going to last longer, and we need that. We need these bigger roads to last longer, and that's why we make them a priority. A lot of our neighborhood streets, 45 years before they could get touched, we're getting in there now. We're getting the last of them done over the next couple of years where everything will have been resurfaced in the city. So that's something I'm really proud of, having been part of it for maybe a couple of weeks now. We expect with the current budget levels as we're looking at coming up this year, the PCI should increase slightly. And then with everything up in the air about the November and everything going on, we're kind of expecting PCIs to go down, as you could expect with less funding. Our rejuvenating agent, we're still proceeding with that because we have to protect the investment that we've made. It just makes sense. So we're going to continue to do that. We did 49 miles of that this year. Those were the roads that were resurfaced in 21-22. All right, so our fun number slide. The year-over-year update comparison, this is where we just show you what the difference between the last time I came before y'all, and that's why we have the arrows. The difference is a $17.7 million deficit compared to when I saw you in February in forecasting forward. We're going to lose 75.4 miles from the last proposed plan as we stand here today. It's only going to allow us to do 35% of the roadways in a 10-year span, with our goal being 50% of the roadways in a 10-year span. This number can go up and down, all based on funding, all based on commodities, but that's where we stand today with this iteration of the plan. Now we have our maps just kind of showing where we plan to go. These are the 2-year maps. We do like a 2-year outlook, excuse me. Anything past the first 2 years is really hard to guess or say where we're going to go, but it's all based on the PCI ratings, going from lowest to highest. And I know last time we talked, Councilman Vana, when we were here actually, we talked about how can we not know what's going to happen in the next 5 years? Well, I guess we learned, didn't we? Things can change rather quickly from a lot of outside sources and a lot of outside influences. So some things have changed, some things have moved around. And ultimately, though, I'll get to the last one, we are still, forecasting out to get the bad roads done sooner than the good roads. And roads will continue to deteriorate. They don't stop. This is a perpetual maintenance that will have to occur until we can all teleport from our homes to where we want to go. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. Then we got to maintain the roads in the sky.
You're not putting me in a flying car, that's for
All
sure.
right, and with that was the plan, and if you have any questions or comments, I'm here to discuss.
Just, Madam Mayor, just
Yep.
to add to this comment, we need to realize that the reason we were able to increase how much resurfacing we're doing was because of the half-cent sales tax.
Right.
So if that goes away, you're going to see a depletion of how much resurfacing we do.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure we put that in perspective.
Import Drive, where are we?
It's out by Savage and.
You know what I mean.
Import Drive, we're currently awaiting the drainage repairs.
Okay, we're still waiting for that to finish up?
Yeah, getting ready to start, actually. We're just getting the numbers in. The contractor's got some time in his schedule. He's going to come in and do that. Right behind him, the contractor will be ready to resurface. They've asked over and over, can we start today? They're ready. The resurfacing contractor's ready.
And to add to that, with the great work with legal, we're able to come to resolution with the contractor that had some not so good work out there and why we have to do some drainage repairs.
Right.
So that will be coming forward for final resolution in the next couple of weeks, and the drainage work will get done. And then, as Tom said, contractor wants to go and he'll get out there and get it done.
So how long for the drainage to be fixed before we can get the repaving done? The reason I get asked, so I want to make sure that I'm being responsive.
Yep, I can take that since I'm doing the drainage side. So as Tom alluded to, we've got the contractor lined up to start the drainage work. We had to wait to get some final numbers for the drainage redesign, which needed to occur, which is incorporating some other additional items. He's ready to start. We're working with PMD to get the purchase order out to him. We anticipate them starting by the end of this month, first week of August. And then, as Tom alluded to, as soon as that work is done, which we anticipate will take less than 4 weeks,
Okay.
Tom will be coming back through. So what the message to the community in that area and the residents in that area is that we will be complete with both the drainage and sidewalk and resurfacing by the end of September.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you all. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with the last item for the day. Unless we want to continue on with the debt review, since we're scheduled to be here, but we'll deal with that after the break. Okay. Okay, we're back from the break, and we're going to go right into our sidewalk master plan.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the council, City Manager's Office. My name is still Emily Sider. I am still a capital projects administrator, and I'm still glad to be speaking to you today. I was joking with a colleague during our break. I don't know if I won the lottery or drew the short straw, but somehow I find myself opening and closing our public works portion of the day. So I'm proud to do so. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
Madam Vice Mayor, I'm going to take a cue from you. I'm going to stick on these certifications and honors for a minute because I am proud as a member of the city team to hold these. While I received my formal education at the University of Kansas, I hit the infrastructure world running, no pun intended, and I built on the private sector for over 10 years. I worked in right-of-ways and doing cellular communications, so I built out part of the mobile network that allows us to enhance these technologies. So drainage, raw land development, infrastructure, private sector to now public, I'm pleased to bring that skill set to you all. While at the city, I've been honored to be recognized as the 2024 Project Manager of the Year, our first PSL, Heart of PSL Awards through the Communications Department. I was able to attend the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative for the Leading City Procurement Reform with Madam Assistant City Manager Christina, our Director of OMB Caroline, and Director of PMD Nate. So that was an incredible opportunity. I'm glad to be among the city colleagues who have had that as well. I have also attended the 2025 American Public Works Leadership Institute. I'm a certified project manager. I carry a litany of DOT qualifications, quite frankly, too many to put on this slide. I have been afforded the opportunity to become a stormwater management inspector. I have completed our cybersecurity training awareness, which might sound silly, but shout out to our IT folks. Yeah. And then as our responsible charge for DOT, again, I joke, but I carry a number of certifications from the Department of Transportation for our local agency program. One of the roles that I have on our team is oversight of the sidewalk program. Today, what we want to talk about, and this being my third consecutive year being able to present to the city, we want to talk about the overview, our cost per mile, again, what comes next with our master plan, and then move into staff recommendations. I want to stop for a moment and recognize this photo. We've been able to add furniture via benches, trash receptacles, pet stations to a number of our projects recently. And the feedback we've gotten from residents is that these are the amenities that level up. These are the things that take us to that next spot. I was grateful to see that we were able to plant some trees in this location so that in a few years we're going to have shade. So that bench is going to be used, not just walked by. This was a project that was completed by our continuing contract holder, Southern Underground, with Everett Tourget and Greg Thomas supporting the project. So this turned out very well, was built effectively. As we pause on the funding and partnerships, this is a carryover slide because it's important for a number of reasons. There is a through line today, not just in this room, but across the county, across the state, of what do we do when the funding changes? What we've been able to do over the past several years is utilize a combination of those funding sources. We'll continue to take those efforts where and when they're applicable, but of late, we've been able to utilize CDBG funding dollars. We have a request in for the next iteration. We've utilized LAP funding dollars from DOT on several projects, and we've been able to collaborate interdepartmentally with the folks in parks to bring design to life for others. Beginning in 2006, a sidewalk master plan was initiated without being a 10-year plan. We wanted to progressively expand the network, which we have done. Between 2006 and 17, 35.5 miles were constructed as part of the sidewalk program, with 48.1 miles constructed as part of roadway projects. I appreciate the half-cent slide that showed earlier how many miles, I believe it's 8.64, of sidewalk that also occurred in the Floresta project, because we sometimes miss that metric, is that we're really expanding through the complete street. In 2018, the voters expressed their appreciation, desire, and need for sidewalks. I want to pause because while all of our infrastructure affects residents, these sidewalks are in their front yard. These sidewalks are personal. These sidewalks affect their abilities, and more importantly, they bring their communities together, which is going to be the thread that we tie into our next planning session. Between 2018 and 2025, approximately 24.6 miles were constructed. Again, that focus during that 10-year master plan was 2-mile radius within schools and on major roadways to alleviate safety concerns for increasing traffic volumes and speeds. Moving us into today, we have an anticipated amount of 5.8 miles of sidewalk remaining. However, as we've discussed, inflation and rising industry costs will continue to reduce that mileage completed, which we will get into shortly. This is a slide that I brought to you last year. We've refined it some to be reflective of the real cost increases, and I'm going to verbalize a few other points to you. What we see here on the slide is that design, CEI, and construction have all increased. We get that, but the percentages are extremely high. What we're trying to do, and if you see on the pop-outs to the left, is that while in 2025, a full comprehensive cost to design was approximately $1.5 million a mile, by utilizing our continuing contract, we were able to reduce that to a cost of on average $730,000 a mile. There is a cost savings there, there's a time savings there, and there's a connection with our community that is invaluable. Additionally, in 25-26, we saved approximately $360,000 by utilizing our in-house design services. Project Administrator Everett Torje was extremely supportive on the Green River Parkway Trail resurfacing project, which we did receive LAP funding on, and he was able to not only help support the design of that resurfacing, but it went through the DOT ringer, so we know it's good. So congratulations, we're going to be looking to kick off that resurfacing actually in the coming weeks. Do we have any questions about cost per mile this time?
I just have one question, is where did you get the numbers from? That's all.
Sure. So I took contracts from each of those years. Additionally, what I've done is I've looked at a difference between our half-cent sales tax or locally funded projects and then when we have grant applications. Madam Mayor, I took note of your comment earlier about what do the federal provisions do, how do they increase our costs, our time, et cetera. It is a balancing act. What we can see from 2025 alone, where we had a half-cent and a LAP project, is that the grant-funded project came in at about $1.4 million a mile. Half-cent came in at $1 million a mile. There's increased costs for CEI and design on those grant-funded projects typically. But to answer your question directly, Madam Vice Mayor, these numbers were taken from actual contracts, and then I've averaged out that per mile cost. So for example, in 2025, the project was 1.3 miles, and so then I broke it back down.
That's good to know. Yeah, just because people always ask, well, where'd you get the numbers from? And did you use something you read on, somewhere? It's nice to know that we took our actual contracts, because that's the real cost. That's not, oh, it just happened to go up this percentage. It's like, no, this is the actual percent.
You mean it's not on ChatGPT?
Listen, there's a lot of stuff on ChatGPT, but I don't know if they went that level of detail that she did, so.
Or Google AI?
Or was it Claude? Claude's the new one?
Or seems to get their information from that's supposedly super accurate?
Well, we asterisk when we use our AI, right? So I want to share verbally a couple of other numbers that are of import. While we do see costs increasing, I want to make note that in 2020, the cost on our contracts for projects selected averaged for concrete, 4-inch concrete, right? Because we're building sidewalks. While there's other components, I want to talk about the concrete costs. 2020, that was approximately $39 a square yard. 2025, approximately $72 a square yard. 2026, we see $60 a square yard. So we have to ask how? If everything else is going up, why did this go down? And it's because the business management of our city. And I have to thank and applaud you all because you have made us a more competitive city, so we're seeing an increase in bidders. When there's only 3 folks, they can charge whatever they want. But in 2022, we had 3 bidders on a construction project for sidewalk. In 2026, we had 10. That's why we see a reduction in costs, and that's exactly because more vendors, more contractors want to work for us. So thank you for the support that you've given to the community, for the outreach that's gone statewide. We've seen vendors coming in and bidding from outside of just the Treasure Coast. It's made us more competitive and more attractive as a client. However, with funding, with a remaining number of miles, we do see that we are approaching a deficit. We'll be discussing in one-on-ones following the workshop some potential scenarios for how we can positively impact the construction of these projects with respect to the deficit. However, we have seen a cut in some funding for the 27 fiscal year, And what that's leaving us with is approximately $4,600,000.
Where are these locations? Do we know?
We do. We have, that's separate. Ironically, I have a slide with those locations that we took out for this presentation, but we'll be going over in our one-on-ones. But just speaking off memory, we have the Parr Drive sidewalks. We have Torino Parkway East. We have Torino Parkway from Topaz. We have Blanton Boulevard, just south of the Torino Regional Park that's coming online. We have Irely construction. However, that is already included as earmarked. We have a couple other that I'm looking forward to bringing to you at a later date.
That's fine. That's fine.
Thank you.
So the funding deficit of 4.6, is that for this year or is that the future year, like a future year?
It's the remaining 10-year plan.
Okay. But we're covered for this year currently?
We have our funding from 25-26 is secured. However, the 26-27 budget, we did see a reduction of approximately $1 million from road and bridge, which will eliminate our ability to construct just about a mile.
Again, another conversation, like another thing to add to the list for discussion of if there's any additional revenue, if council decides to utilize that, what would that be? I would like to see us add that 1 million.
And historically, we use that 304 to support the design and CEI phase, the functions of them. So what we'll be bringing to you is how can we utilize some of those existing contracts to eliminate some of those costs effectively, but still providing a high level of service on the project.
Yeah. I just hope, like, I know with everything going on, I think the goal is not to get behind, you know, and especially when, you know, I think the desire of the public too is eventually to see sidewalks in their neighborhoods. And it's also a very long-term plan because that's going to take a long time to do over time. But until we could finish this, we're probably never going to get started on that. So,
Well, yeah, and that's going to beg, depending on funding and what things
Yep.
look like, that's going to beg a much bigger conversation because some people, it's kind of like the same as the streetlight situation. You have people that want them, and I've seen people that say, no, I don't need that. I'm not. So that's just going to be, like I mentioned, a much bigger conversation that's going to take quite some time to address. But again, it's going to be all about funding.
yep.
But did you say that we would have a delay, or we wouldn't have enough funding to address the area around Torino Regional?
No, right now, we have Torino as the applied for project for CDBG funding for approximately $800,000. Our team's been working with Catherine Sala on that, so I'm unsure exactly when that determination will be made. However, what we know about the Torino sidewalk in particular is that we don't have residential driveways. So that's a perfect opportunity for us to get in there and pour concrete, do our sidewalks, make our swale adjustments without the need for formal design, and to get in there more quickly. So we are confident in our ability to deliver on the Torino and Blanton projects, especially because we understand the proximity to the Torino Regional Park is critical.
Yeah, that is critical to make sure that connectivity is there for sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As we look ahead to the future, this has been a 3-year project of mine, is we're looking at the policy, planning, principles, and preparation of our next plan. We've got a considerable number of locations that have been recommended by residents. Appreciation goes to Beth Zoka and Jennifer Romberger in our community outreach and customer service support teams in Public Works, because they've done a great job of taking the 1 PSLs that we receive with preferred locations and providing that, and then I have been the steward of that information, which you're going to see on the next couple of slides. Our policy continues to maintain that we want to connect communities as safely as possible. I was on our Kessler Sidewalk project 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to a resident in response to a 1 PSL, and this resident had some frustrations, but really, he had accolades. What he said was, I'm frustrated with my sod, but I see people from my neighborhood that I've never seen before. People didn't walk here. Now there's people walking every day. every age. And so to have that experience with a resident who's expressing frustration, but also gratitude, I think is reflective of the city's ability to provide for amenities and adjust when there's concern. So with that specific project in mind, Kester's a busy road, connecting Darwin to Becker. Now we've got families out there utilizing the sidewalk in a way that's meaningful. And that's direct feedback from our residents, which we appreciate.
Awesome.
Again, as we look to the planning, we'll continue to recognize how to connect communities, not only to between each other and to existing sidewalks, but to local economic hubs, to other local infrastructure amenities, passive parks, green spaces, and more. The principles remain that we intend to provide multimodal access to all, regardless of mobility, and we are intent on maintaining the ADA compliance that drives our transition plan at the city. Continued preparation looks like ongoing conversations with the TPO, the school board, with residents, with you all, with staff, and we're taking all of those things into account. Lastly on this slide, I want to recognize that we are exploring alternate procurement delivery methods. What I mean by that is, what might it look like to take a chunk of funding and have 5 projects designed? Projects that have deep swales, projects that have drainage issues, projects that we know we want an outside consultant to do. So if we were to utilize a procurement method where we could design in bulk and then construct as funding becomes available, is that part of the conversation? So I just wanted to clarify that last note on the slide.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've been talking about for a long time, is what methods can we utilize in order to get as many projects designed and ready to go, so that when funding becomes available, it's shovel-ready and we can move forward in getting it done. Yeah, so that is absolutely key, especially with all the things that are going on right now.
Well, I appreciate that support. We're going to paper it and bring it to you. To really drive it home, we want to connect the communities. The families of Port St. Lucie are what make us who we are. The research is underway, and it's stemming from Dr. Barth's high-performing public spaces. We take that mantra into what we're doing. How do we connect people with publicly accessible spaces, generate economic, environmental, and socially sustainable benefits to these local communities? We've got feedback that the sidewalks are positive, and so how can we expand on that? How can we bring amenities into our stormwater treatment areas? How can we improve the swale liner and be adding these other infrastructure pieces? We'll also continue to reflect as a smart city, where the planning strikes a balance between these resident-driven requests, user data, information, local destinations, and then again, fiscal responsibility. That's going to culminate in the collaboration with our internal and external stakeholders. It's not going to stop anytime soon. What I've provided on slides 10 and 11 is a preliminary list of locations for consideration. These have stemmed both from initial 10-year planning, where the project locations had not been selected for that plan. So it's a carryover from the initial work that Mr. Knott and a few others in Public Works provided for. So some locations didn't make the cut last time. We're not ruling them off. We're putting them back on the list, as well as resident-driven requests. Then we have the staff identified locations for connectivity. What we've shown is the linear footage. However, we'll be able to break down what that phasing may look like, and then dig more into it. So here are just, this is not a comprehensive list, and it's intended for reference only. It does not indicate prioritization at this time. We have a few other columns that we'll be bringing in one-on-ones that discuss amenities, council districts, and some of the other great information. Shout out to the ArcGIS folks who have built out that portal in such a way that we are able to leverage the technology that our in-house team has built and show the layers. So I can see in real time, where am I missing a connection? Where do I have a school that doesn't have enough support around it? So the implementation and the more recent rollout of that ArcGIS improvements, I got to personally witness Director Swerk geek out as an engineer. He was really pumped. He shared the link with all of us, and it's been a tool that we use. So we're continuing to grow that chest, and thank you to the internal teams who have built that for us.
So I would be interested to know, and I'm guessing the rest of the council would too, since one of our main goals has been to make sure that that school connectivity is there. That's always been a number one priority with regard to sidewalks. So obviously, I'm not going to hone down on these two lists, but if there are any on these lists that are connected or need to be connected, then I think that's really important to make sure that it stays on a priority list.
We agree entirely. What we've done is taken the list and we cast a wide net with the first plan, right? Now we want to try to utilize something like a scoring criteria that, again, we'll look for your support on. And part of what I envision for that scoring criteria is connectivity to a school, connectivity to an existing sidewalk, eligibility for grant funding. And then each of those have a point percentage so that we can try and systematize how we're doing this and taking into account, were they resident driven, et cetera. So I appreciate you calling that out because that connectivity to schools is critical enough that we want it to be part of our criteria.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
As we move into next steps, with respect to all the changes at the state level that could be coming, what we'll be looking to do is schedule one-on-one sessions with each of you so that we can prepare and provide in more detail some of the information that we have shared today, with the goal being to come back in October to a special session or what it may be and provide to you the next iteration of a 10-year master plan to seek your support.
Okay. Any questions, council? Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
I actually do, and thank you for bringing up about the schools, because I had that underlined there, because that was our top priority. It's scary that we're going to have that big of a deficit. It almost seems like we can't do it all, and prices are prohibiting us from doing it, so we have to prioritize. The probably has nothing to do with sidewalks, but I wanted to ask about the sidewalk on Milner that stopped at the street because the fire district was building the new fire station 18 and it's not been completed. Is that the fire district's responsibility or was that ours once they got finished?
I can speak to that. The site amendment, the site plan did not actually require the fire district to put that sidewalk in. We are in design right now. One of our project managers, Tim Murphy, is spearheading that because there are significant elevation issues or swale issues, the deep swales and drainage needs. We're actually having, I believe, Culpeper and Turpinning provide the design so that we can construct that, and we'll be providing that infrastructure.
Because I thought that was supposed to go all the way to Midway.
It will.
And when did we open 18?
Last year.
Last year? Oh, no.
25.
Yes, something like
25.
that. So.
Work continued. Oh, excuse me.
All right. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. I didn't know if it was the fire board's or fire district's responsibility or if it was the city to get it done, and we need to get that completed, in my eyes. The only other thing is, of course, you all know that I've been receiving inquiries because of the sidewalks not being maintained and mowed and edged properly or when they should be, especially in the summer when we have all the rain and it's like every other day you got to mow. But when the grass starts invading and crossing over the sidewalk, it becomes to me a safety issue and unsightly. So we are no longer clean, beautiful, and safe when it comes to that. So I know I have passed on all of the concerns on that, and the response has been great, so I appreciate it. But the vendors are telling the residents when they go and tell them and say, aren't you going to edge? And they say, no, that's not included. So, communication. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
So, Kate, I see, so Well, I'm looking at, it's almost 3:30. Is Chris coming early, or is he scheduled to be here right at 9:30? What does that look like?
So with your city manager's guidance, we've already moved Chris up earlier, so
Oh,
he
you
can
did?
be here at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I
Okay.
think that today we've had Charlie Prue here to give the debt portion of the
Perfect.
presentation.
Okay.
And then the investment, I believe the investment portion will be first up, and then Chris. Or you could have the investment, because I think you have a consultant coming in for the investment report. So Chris
Okay.
will be here as well as the investment report in the morning, and then we'll go right into the budget. If that works for you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we'll do debt and investment tomorrow?
We'll
Or
just do the debt
today?
portion today.
Okay.
If you'd like
Yeah,
to do that.
let's do debt
Charlie's
portion.
here for that, Mr.
Let's
Prue.
do debt portion today, and we'll end for the day and start fresh in the morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Manager, staff, and residents. As you can see, we got a nice new CV there. Charlie Prue, Deputy Finance Director. Been with the city 17 years, and that's my entire professional career with Port St. Lucie. I was just talking with Jay Liss. I actually have a picture on the wall out there when I was a kid. So I grew up in parks. I've been to many of these buildings. So it's a true honor to continue to serve in the community and work for the city.
Oh, and you're a black belt.
Yes, yeah. So shout out to Kate, who started that initiative, and I continue to go down that road. It gets real mathy when you get into the black belt, but it is interesting nonetheless.
He's like an efficiency ninja, I think.
Yes, yes. So if you really want to go to sleep, we can start going through some of those formulas. But
That's so funny.
I digress. We are here to talk about our debt. And so, before I get into, the nuances of our debt portfolio, I really kind of want to, for the benefit of the residents, to talk about the term debt, why we have debt. Debt is often met with a negative connotation, almost like it's something bad. But really, for the city, it's a strategic tool. And why we issue debt is to invest in large-scale capital projects. And so those are our roads, bridges, parks, public buildings. We do not use debt to pay for salaries or operating expenses, right? So, why does the city choose to issue debt? We don't have to, but why would we choose that route? There's a couple different alternatives, a few actually. So if we didn't want to issue debt and we, let's say, had a $20 million project we wanted to complete, we could simply save, right? And so we could save $1 million a year for 20 years, and after 20 years, we could spend that $20 million on that project. However, with that, for those 20 years, you're going to be fighting inflation, right? And so you're going to be charging residents of today for a future benefit that residents in the future will take part of but had no payment for, right? And so that is a potentially not the most prudent way to approach a capital project. You can also do pay-go, so pay as you go. Similar scenario, you could pay, let's say you could afford $1 million a year for 20 years, and so you could do $1 million worth of project in year one, $1 million worth in year two, and so on and so forth, and chip away at the project.
You
But
may
it-
never get anything done?
Again, you could have challenges with inflation, and you could also drive by that same road or building for 20 years and say, wow, this thing is still under construction. They started this in high school, and I'm still driving by this today with my kids, right? And so from the city's standpoint, issuing debt to get the money up front, we get the project done timely, and then we could spread the cost over 20 or 30 years so that future residents that are benefiting from that capital investment help pay for it. And so that's the approach the city's taken for a lot of our projects. It is a balancing act. We don't do it for everything. We do it strategically. So it's just another tool in our tool belt that we used in order to get the vital services and infrastructure to our residents. And as we talked about, the main benefits that we use is we spread that project over time. And so that allows future residents coming into the city to help pay for these roads, help pay for these parks, help pay for these public buildings that they're going to be privy to and utilize. We do have a debt policy. We are governed by it. So all debt is first approved by council. It is authorized by the Constitution. And as I said before, we cannot use debt for operating. It has to be used for capital projects, or we can use it to refund existing debt. And when we say refunding, when we look at our debt portfolio, almost everyone says we're funding such and such bond. It's because we do refund a lot. And what we're doing is essentially similar if you did a refi on your mortgage. So we borrowed debt at 4.5%. The interest rate went down, and so they're at 4%, and so we'll essentially refinance. And so we can realize a net present value savings and save the taxpayers money by refinancing. And we do that a lot. I don't think we've ever rode a debt to maturity, not that I know of anyway recently. And so it's you'll see in a future slide, we've saved over $100 million so far just by being proactive and ensuring we refund when appropriate. Getting into kind of the numbers here, we're starting in that middle column. 2010 is kind of our benchmark, is where we start. That is the height of our debt. And you can see that highlighted column. The city of Port St. Lucie, with 164,000 residents, had a debt of about $1 billion. And we often talk about that as the kind of the peak of our debt. And we were, I think, about fourth in the top 15 cities. So these are the top 15 populous cities in Florida, and we had the fourth highest debt in 2010. Last year, in 2025, we have dropped now to the sixth lowest at $580 million. That was our debt portfolio last fiscal year at the end of 2025. That is a total debt reduction of approximately $460 million, or 44%. If you look at all the other cities here in that far right column in black, they have increased their debt.
Yeah.
And so there's only 5 cities here, the top 15, that have reduced their debt. And the city of Port St. Lucie, other than Pembroke Pines, has reduced their debt the most. We reduced it 44%, Pembroke 49%. However, if you look at the amount of Pembroke, $185 million, compared to the city, we have reduced it by $462 million. And so it's kind of hard to visualize what that number means, but that is a significant amount of money to chip away out in the last 15 years. So we are very proud of that number, and we're continuing to reduce that amount whenever possible. Debt per capita is also another way of measuring the total debt that the city has, and so that's essentially debt per resident. In 2010, we had the second highest debt per resident, second only to Gainesville. So that was $6,332, that middle column on the right there, per resident. Last fiscal year, that was reduced down to $2,229 per resident. So that is a total reduction over $4,000 per resident, or 65%. And no other entity has reduced the amount per capita that Port St. Lucie has. And that is coupled with our sharp reduction overall debt principal with our increase in population.
So, Madam Mayor, I don't want to be getting ahead of your presentation, but, okay, yep. So, really quick, so we are having conversations, obviously, because of, we had conversations this morning about utility, how utility is changing, how we're going to have to expand the utility department. That's going to be a significant amount added to our debt portfolio. Tell me, in your experiences, like from what you're seeing in the market, are these cities also incurring more debt too because of what's occurring? Like, how much do you see these numbers changing in comparison to our like best practices currently? Mm-hmm. And how are we going to make sure that we keep the debt as low as possible while we're trying to juggle the increase in infrastructure requirements expected, like what our residents expect? How are we going to do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you look at most of the larger cities, they're increasing their debt. Their populations are expanding. They have to fund certain vital capital projects. Like you said, a lot of this is regulatory. Like when you reach a certain population or certain capacity for utility plant, you have no choice. You have to start preparation for additional capacity or additional plant. Like there's no way around that. And so that's what you see. So funding via debt is a GFOA. It is a best practice to fund these large-scale capital improvements, and that is what you see across the board for these entities, is them increasing their overall debt portfolio. And how we manage that responsibly is it's a balancing act. As I said before, you have to weigh everything on an individual basis and prioritize your needs. And with, we do as much as we can with Kate's team and grants and whatever we can do to offset that total debt principal. But it is definitely a balancing act, and based on pending legislative changes, it's going to get tougher. We're going to have to look at things a little bit more scrutinizingly, if that's a word, to ensure that we are taking on an appropriate amount of debt per the revenue stream that's going to be able to come in. And it also, not to get too in the weeds, but it also depends on the revenue source. When we talk about utilities, that debt is funded by the ratepayer. It is not necessarily funded by the overall taxpayer. It is not paid by ad valorem taxes in any way. It is actually funded by the ratepayer. Same thing with the stormwater fund. And so you kind of have to get down into the individual project of what it's for and then how it's going to be paid, because you can't really lump everything under an umbrella and say, we can only afford this much. It really gets down to the specific revenue source, stream, and surrounding circumstances.
And even if, I know utilities has its own revenue stream because of the way they collect their revenues, and you and Stephen advise across all of the departments. So when we talk about debt, has the utility department done its fair share of saving their pennies to be able to pay for as much in cash as possible before we go out to debt?
Yeah, so it's ongoing reviews of the budget, and then the way we assess how much, like a question can arise, how much debt could, let's say, the utility systems afford, right? And so there's debt service coverage ratios and debt capacity ratios, and we monitor that. Our rating agencies, which we'll get into, monitor that. We have internal financial experts, Stephen, Denise Jackson in our office. We have PFM, our third-party advisors. We have our external auditors. It goes on and on. And so it's not just one or two people making that decision. We have a team of people that look on to see, can we afford this? And getting into some of these ratios, let's say our debt service coverage ratio, you kind of want that to be at least 2. So you want your revenue to be 2 times what your debt service payment is. Some of the utility bonds are between 10 and 14 times. And so from a generalization standpoint, they're pretty good.
I think.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, just to kind of go back to the question that you asked as far as the utility and savings. If you go back in 2003, 2004, 2005, was when the utility truly expanded our water plants, wastewater plants, and also forest mains and water mains. That's when the huge investment was made. Since then, we have not had any major expansion whatsoever, except for some water lines, forest mains, to be able to grow the system, but the capacity was there. The major expenditure actually occur. And going back to your question, what did the utilities do between those years and today? Well, basically, we did save a large amount of money for the purpose of this construction that's going to be happening. A lot of the design work, a lot of the raw water mains, which is the basic salt water that goes into an RO plant, all that, injection well, a lot of that was done. Have we done some bonding, small amounts? Absolutely. But the real true expenditure is going to be occurring. And it's the right thing to do, because what you want is that you want to expand again for another 20 more years. And this expenditure is going to happen probably in the next 5 years in the neighborhood between $300 to $400 million.
Yep, and I think that's going to be a major point to make, is what that expansion is going to do. And then for legal, we need to be watching carefully the legislative discussion, because once that capacity comes online, if these discussions continue about capacity and sharing capacity, I want to make sure that we're legally protected, and we fight any potential pulling of our capacity, especially when we're going out to bond and our residents are going to be paying for that for how many years?
Actually, you make a tremendous point. We're being fiscally responsible of building our infrastructure, waiting for those houses to be built, for somebody else that never planned correctly and think that they could come here and take our capacity away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And basically have to give it away. That's not right, and that's not how it should work. If a utility does not want to prepare themselves for the future, that's on them. It should not be on our city.
I agree.
If I may as well, Madam Mayor, City Manager, the water plant on Discovery as an example, currently designing that for 10 million gallons a day. You heard from John Easton earlier. The utility team is looking at if that reverse osmosis plant needs or should be bigger, it can be expanded upon, but not straight out of the gate building a 30 million gallon plant, but build it in such a way that we build it to 10, we make some wise investments. Should that plant need to expand, we come later and do that versus building 30 million that now creates that giant capacity there. And another point, looking at our capacity fees, when these projects are coming in within your 5-year window, we look at the fees being charged for plant capacities. And so you supported, and we did adjust our water plant capacity and some of our line charges a couple years ago because this water plant was coming online. And Glades similarly has fallen now within the 5-year. And so it's important to for the public to understand that, we got our finger on the pulse here, and we're monitoring all these variables to see, making sure the impacts, again, are paid as much as we can and making the best, investment we can.
Thank you.
So this bar graph really just depicts those 15 other entities and where the average lies. And so kind of the average you see there is around 900 million, so 929 million to be exact. So that's the average outstanding debt across these 15 entities. Port St. Lucie, highlighted in yellow, is at, again, 580 million as of fiscal year 2025. And so we're pretty far below the average, which is quite outstanding when you think about the growth that we've had and us being able to fund what we've been able to fund without taking on new debt. When you look at Orlando and Cape Coral, they've all packed on new debt over the past couple of years. And alluding to the city manager's comment, where we have kind of these long-term declines, and then we're going to have a spike here in the next 3 to 5 years. This chart shows from the height of $1 billion, we've kind of steadily declined, and we've had little spikes here and there where we've taken on a little bit of new debt. But overall, as a trend, it's continuing to decline. And I will point out, too, this is coupled with a decreasing millage rate almost over the entire same time period. So we haven't been increasing our millage to help pay off the debt. We've actually been paying off the debt while decreasing the millage at the same time and funding the vital services that we've been funding for the past 15 years. So it's a real kudos to the city council and staff and their strong initiative to reduce our debt obligations over this time period. And as I mentioned, with the population growth has been significant. That has helped us, because we've had an increasing tax base to help pay down some of our debt. But I want to reiterate that ad valorem taxes do not go to pay debt other than the Crosstown Parkway. Crosstown Parkway is your voted debt. That is a GO bond. It has to be voted by the residents. That is the separate line item you see on your tax bill. All other debt is paid by other revenue streams. And so just again, want to reiterate, ad valorem taxes does not go to pay our debt other than the GO debt. This is our debt portfolio as of the end of this fiscal year. So fiscal year 26, we're projected to have a balance of $549 million, starting with the largest, which is utilities, that's in green. And so that is the bulk of our debt at 46%. And then we go into our special assessments at 17%. And really, that is also a large part utility infrastructure, which was assessed to that particular property owner. It is paid by that specific property owner that got the benefit of that construction. It is not paid by the broad tax base. We do have some legacy economic development debt that's dwindling down. It was significant. It is now at $70 million. That is the old historic VGTI, digital domain buildings. And then we have our GO debt, which is Crosstown. That is paid by ad valorem taxes, only $58 million remaining on that. And then we have some smaller debt issues. We recently did one for the parks, PD and Public Works building. That is 7% of our overall debt portfolio. a little bit left in stormwater, 5%, and then we have a little CRA bank loan out there for 1% or $7 million. But as you can see, the lion's share here is utility debt that is backed by the whole utility user base, and very healthy debt as far as debt's concerned.
So the special assessment debt, that's infrastructure debt, correct?
Correct.
So again, going back to terminology, I think it's important that somehow when we present this to the public, or when it's presented to public, that you just provide like that, because they don't understand. They say special assessment.
Yeah, I know.
Well, what are they doing that's so special? You know, and the truth is, I know that's all infrastructure, because that's what those items are. That's additional infrastructure debt. The economic development debt, like you highlighted, you said legacy keyword. That means that we are not taking on any new economic development debt. We voted, the council even before me voted that that won't happen ever again. So the soccer stadium is not going to be bonded, correct? No. City of Port St. Lucie is putting in no money for the stadium, correct?
No.
In the sense of debt, it's like nothing.
No, because there might be some confusion because they have a developer bond. That is not a city bond. That is not debt from the city, no.
Thank
We're
you.
not paying for it, we're not funding money for it. It's private investment. 100% private investment.
Yeah, to your comment, Mayor, I will do a better job. We use this terminology so much in finance, we just start rattling off jargon. And I will do a shout out to our popular annual financial report, our PAFR.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently completed that, and that has a really good job of explaining these bond issues very clearly and plainly, and actually articulates what the money was used for by specific project. And so that can be found on the city's website under the finance department, the PAFR, Popular Annual Financial Report.
That is a great little report.
It is.
It really is.
And I think when you look at what stormwater, like what you did, how long was that video? 2 minutes? I don't think it's a bad idea for some of these questions that we get for you to have like a video ready to go or something quick ready to go. Because that's the way I'm thinking. It's just, we put the information out. It is public, but even the PAFR, for example, people, are they going to actually read it, even if it's just a few pages? Because I think it's bite-sized. It has to be something very simple for people to be like, okay, I get that. That's infrastructure debt. And then if they want to see, well, what infrastructure debt? Well, here's the PAFR. It's going to tell you what that has for those people that want to read more. But I feel like people really just want information as quickly as possible, as concise.
Sure, we can work with communications to create a little short on our debt portfolio.
Yeah, I think it's just helpful. And I think it's one of those things when a resident asks, we can just send them the video and say, here's an explanation of the debt.
Sure.
It's almost like we need, because we create those videos, but they kind of go into the ether sometimes and they're hard to find. It's almost like we need a video log or something so we can actually just send a 2-minute snippet of what this is.
Yep, excellent idea. And so I spoke before about refunding, right, why it's important. So this kind of exemplifies that. So today, we've saved over $100 million of the tax and ratepayer money by just refunding, being proactive. And so, as I mentioned before, it's not just Stephen or Denise or Karen or I in the office that's looking at that. We have our third-party advisor, Jake with PFM. We have bond counsel. We have our external auditors. We have our rating agencies. And so we're constantly looking at when can we refund, should we refund, what are the interest rates? And so we're very proactive with it. We do have a special assessment bond that is up for refunding in 26 that we're working on, and that's going to be another $2 million on top of this 102. So that'll be $104 million saved to date just by keeping on top of it. And so remember, our total debt portfolio is like $580 million, and so we've saved $100 million of that. If we did nothing and just rode everything out to maturity, it'd be in excess of $680 million just by, just sitting there and doing nothing. And these are our ratings. And so for the, average resident home, what this is essentially similar to is your credit score. And so these third-party rating agencies take a look at our financial statements. They take a look at economic conditions. They take a look at political conditions. And they give our bonds a rating. And that rating is a sign of risk, financial health. And so the higher the rating, the less risk. And so the less risk, the less of an interest rate you have. And so we've continually increased our ratings. So we recently increased our special obligation ratings to AA2. And so that is getting up there. We strive to be AAA rated. That is our goal, and that is essentially the blue ribbon, top tier, as good as you can get. We are monitoring these. They have increased year over year with the potential changes to taxes. We're going to have to see how these are affected. They may suppress, they may go down. And that's just, that's not fear mongering or anything. That is how these rating agencies assess these. Because if we have less money to pay our bonds and less of a backstop, then they would potentially get a lower rating. And while that doesn't do anything to the existing debt, so the $580 million is locked in, but when we go out to issue new debt, let's say between $200 and $400 million that we're talking about, that can significantly affect the interest rate that we get on that new debt. And so that gets to real dollars very quick. And so if we did a $50 million issue, let's say, and we got an interest rate of 4%, but for some reason we can't borrow at 4%, and they increase it to 4.1. That 1/10 of 1% is over $1 million over the life of that bond, and that's on 50 million, and that's at 1/10 of 1%. If it was a 0.5% or a full percent on $4 million, you're talking about tens of millions of dollars. And so we're very sensitive to these rates. We try to protect them as much as possible because we know for the future we're going to have to rely on them to borrow the money that we need for the vital infrastructure coming in the future.
So when do we get these ratings? Like, when do they actually provide us an updated rating?
So usually they will come back when we issue new debt is when they start looking at them. And
Right.
so S&P will schedule a meeting with Steve and I and the team and say, you want to issue $50 million for this. We're going to go over everything that's going on with the city. We want your ACFR. We want your financial statements. We want to know what projects you're doing. We want to know what's going on with traditions, what's going on with the soccer stadium, what's going on with this, things they hear in the news. And it's a rap sheet of pages and pages of questions that we have to answer. And they have their own analysts that will give us a rating based on their assessment. And they do take a look on kind of like similar ratings. It would be weird to have one that has like a CCC rating or something like that. But they work kind of with each other, but they are their own entity. But it's very much when we issue new debt is when the optics really start to hone in.
Just to add a little bit to that, recently we had a couple of ratings this year, S&P and Moody's. One of the questions from S&P was current legislation.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. Where's the discussion? Is there
Yep.
any speculative discussion that's occurring with these rating agencies? And then just for clarity of the record, I think fear-mongering, and I know you use that term, but I think it is important to clarify that this isn't, we would have nothing to fear if we had information. And I think the problem is there was the House and the Senate, I believe 2 years ago, it's not this last session, it was a session before, actually voted to do an economic study of what property taxes would do and how it would impact the state and cities and counties. And unfortunately, that was vetoed. And so there is no information, speculative or estimate, of how this is going to impact our bond rating. And so, and bonding, as we know, as we're trying to see to grow, to be able to expand the infrastructure, is critical. So that's why I'm wondering, is there anything out there that's telling us where
I
they're
have
at?
not seen a shred of information unless you have.
No? Yeah, and so that's, to me, that's like, we'll have to, I mean, if these things change, we'll have to cut, we'll have to find a way to cut. People may not like the cuts to happen, but at the end of the day, if we're not able to bond, it's going to definitely change how the ability we are to deal with the infrastructure needs of the city, because it's the reality.
It all comes down to what the city has available to pay for the debt. And so usually when you issue a bond at a very simple premise, you have to pledge a revenue source. Let's say
Right.
that revenue source is mobility fees or in half-cent sales tax. Well, there's always going to be a backstop to make investors feel safe. They say, okay, we're cool with mobility fees, we're cool with half-cent sales tax, but half-cent sales tax is on a 10-year cycle. It could go away.
Perhaps.
Mobility fees could dry up because of economic conditions. So the investor says, I need something to feel safe and comfortable. And so the backstop is going to usually be a statement that says any and all other non-ad valorem revenues, right? And so that's the backstop. If there's less of that around because we've had to shift ad valorem revenue or shift non-ad valorem revenue to pay for the absent ad valorem revenue, then there's less revenue to backstop these bonds. And that's what these rating agencies look at. there's just less money all around. And so therefore, the risk is slightly higher, the rating is going to be slightly lower, and the interest rate is going to increase.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'm always open to the conversation of how to do things better and how to reform a system to improve. I just think the amount of information to make those decisions is so key. And this is an area that really is completely vague. If it was to pass, like what would happen? And on top of the declining revenues, how would we be able to deal with the project load that's being expected of us as an organization? So, thank you.
Yeah, well, the reality is we won't be able to.
That's the truth.
Let's just talk, if we're just being really honest and straightforward here. If you don't have the revenues and you don't have the funding to be able to do the projects, then you can't do the projects.
Yep.
I think something else just to add is the ability to increase your millage rate if you ever choose to. That has been restricted. So that plays a component in the overall ability to go out there and cover your debt.
Yeah, it's excellent points, and to your point, Madam Mayor, we're kind of monitoring it because we don't really know yet what the implications are. And so we're kind of in that kind of waiting game to see what happens. But this, for anybody interested, this is our overall debt portfolio kind of split out. So you see our utilities there, our economic development, GEO, special assessment, stormwater, and CRA debt by issues. If you look at the name, the word refunding, again, is in almost every single one, is because we refund them whenever possible to take advantage of those net present value savings. And so, again, total of $549 million at the end of this fiscal year. But that is, I say it every year, that is slated to go up. We've been very fortunate that we've been able to suppress that. But there is going to be time in the near future where we're going to have to go out for a significant amount of debt, particularly for the utility fund.
And again, going back to the portfolio, next year, I see how it's broken out. As much detail as we can provide, or layman detail we can provide.
Yeah, I honestly, I attempted to put the fund numbers in here as well, but
that's a lot of information.
The backstop is usually multiple funds, and it got a little messy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely go and take a look and see if we can maybe provide a slide next year that does a little more.
And in
context
fact,
of what they're
besides
for.
the bond category, what probably be helpful, and I don't know, I'd have to see it when you guys put it together, is what's the funding source?
Yeah.
So people could actually see, it's like, this is not funded through, ad valorem. This is how we fund it. And some of these are declining revenues too when you look at gas tax and some of the other funds. And so I just think that information is what people are, at least from my experience, of wanting to see is like, where is the money coming from? Are my taxes paying for this? Why is my taxes paying for that? So I think that's important.
Sure, no problem. And with that, that is the end.
Any questions? All right, great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we've come to the end of the day. I want to thank everyone for all the great presentations and all the updates. I know it is a lot of work, a lot of hard work to put everything together. So thank you, Jesus and everybody, and we will see you all tomorrow. We are adjourned.